Trucker Dump for May 1st, 2010, episode 42. Feel the love, you mean old hag.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com. Resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
G'day, kids. Todd McCann here. Hope you're having a fabulous day. Me? Well, I've been sitting in a dock for 3 hours. It looks like I'll be here for 4 or 5 more by the time I'm done. Then I have yet another live load. Well, as they say, that's trucking for you. So that's enough of my problems. Let's get on with today's podcast. One with a title full of love, caring, and deep-felt compassion. It's called Feel the Love, You Mean Old Hag. The Evil Overlord, my wife and co-driver, and I have been noticing an awful lot of love going around online. Social networks are teeming with couples professing their undying love for each other. They're usually followed by the obligatory MUAH, which Google informs me is the sound of a kiss. I guess I just don't make enough kissing noises in my daily life to recognize that. To these people, I say good for you. I also say, get a room. I do so with a smile, though. Seriously, I'm glad that there's love in the world. I'm happy that there are people who maw at each other, even if it does make me throw up in my mouth a little bit. I do hope it's genuine, though. I truly hope their home lives reflect their real life. I'm sure many do. On the other hand, the Evil Overlord and I know some couples who are miserable in real life, but you'd never know it from their online love fest. And then there are those who get offended when I take a verbal jab at the Evil Overlord. It happens all the time on my blog and on Twitter. I'm at Todd McCann on Twitter. That's 2 D's, 2 C's, and 2 N's. My mother, who I know will listen to this at some point, hi Mom, is one of those people. I believe that after our marriage of nearly 17 years, she now understands and accepts the way things are. The part that disturbs most folks, including my mom, is the language we use, or perhaps the language that we don't use. For one, I don't tell the Evil Overlord that I love her every day, or even every week. She returns the favor. I've said this before and I'll say it again. One thing I truly love about the Evil Overlord is that she can't stand Oprah. She thinks all this self-love, build-up-your-self-esteem stuff is highly overrated. Tack on the fact that she thinks flowers and cards are pretty much a waste of money and you've got yourself a keeper. Maybe all this Oprah mojo is fine for those women who have some deep, dark past that has left them with self-esteem issues, but not everyone needs a cheerleader pushing woman power on them. Fortunately for me, confidence is not a problem the Evil Overlord faces. Many wives need to hear the words, I love you, numerous times a day. They constantly need their husbands to reassure them that they look good, too. The Evil Overlord, on the other hand, doesn't need or want this. She knows when she looks good, and when she doesn't. Sure, she'll ask my opinion on an outfit now and then, but she usually ignores me and wears the one she thinks looks better anyway. Good choice, as my sense of fashion is pretty atrocious. Now for this language stuff. Here's where we really get to some people. We've got a lot of sarcasm in our relationship. Throw in a few insults and some name-calling, and you pretty much got the picture. For example, she'll say something like, hey, lazy ass, why don't you make yourself useful for a change and fix the shower faucet? I'll respond with a loving, don't tell me what to do, woman. Don't you know your place by now? She'll walk away threatening my life as I'm gathering the tools. When I'm sitting on my can watching TV, I'll yell, hey, wench, serve me some food. She'll holler back telling me where I can put said food. 2 minutes later, I'm looking at my old Transformers TV tray with a heaping plate of vittles. When I get up in the middle of my sleep to back into a dock or put fuel in the truck, I'll say, good Lord, woman, you're totally worthless. With a smug look, she replies, get out there and do your manly duty and quit your whining. When she tells me she wants to buy a MacBook, I tell her that only an idiot would pay that much for a computer. She mumbled something like, I'll get it if I want it, that'll teach you to mess with me. Instead, she refrains from buying one. When I finally catch the Mac bug, she secretly orders me a top-of-the-line MacBook Pro for Christmas. She doesn't get hers for another 1.5 years. When she asked me to quit playing Guitar Hero Metallica to drive 15 miles into town to get her The Ones with the Wings, I say, "Man, I really hate your guts." I hear a mumbled, "You love me," as I'm walking out the door with a grin. No, I really don't, as the last thing she hears as the door closes. I know she's grinning too. The fact is that we don't feel the need to say, "I love you" all the time. We've never had a deep heart-to-heart, tear-inducing conversation about this, but we both know we're loved by the actions that the other takes. As the old saying goes, actions speak louder than words. If I felt that I had to hear it every day, I wouldn't consider myself to be very confident about the fact. Same with her. Granted, our actions don't always reflect an ooey-gooey feeling of love. We are married, after all. As for the name-calling, well, I call her the Evil Overlord because she can be as mean as a newly castrated bull when she wakes up. When we're home and she's requested that someone wake her up at a certain time, it turns into a session of, "I'm not doing it, you do it." Luckily, I'm bigger than my nephews. Out on the road, it's all on me. Although you can sometimes hear me pleading for help on Twitter. When she calls me a dumbass, well, I know that she's only implying that I can sometimes act like a childish, brainless turd flinger. Sometimes names are given for a reason, you know. Seriously, though, I've never flung even one single turd in my life. That's not anything my youngest nephew can claim. So why are so many people hung up on the words, "I love you"? Too many times I've heard couples exchange "I love yous" as one of them walks out the door or hangs up the phone. It doesn't seem to mean that much to either of them. I'm sure you've heard it too. Maybe that's you. Maybe without you realizing it, it's even become your version of "see you later." Gee, that means a lot. One thing is for sure about my relationship with the Evil Overlord. When one of us says the magic words, it means something, and that's largely because we don't say it every day. The words tend to show up at the oddest moments, too, catching the person completely off guard. This turns out to be an added benefit because not only have you told them that you love them, but considering the surprising nature of the situation, you have to explain yourself to them. More examples? I might hear the words after I crawl out of bed in the middle of the night to walk her into a dark rest area. When I look at her suspiciously, she'll suddenly respond, "Most men wouldn't do this." Whether that's true or not, I don't really care. It makes me feel good. Oddly enough, I don't get the same treatment when I wake up and start whining about freezing my butt off on the way into the rest area. The Evil Overlord might get surprised with it as we're gathered around the PlayStation 3 with our nephews, all of us screaming trash talk at the video game. With her hair up in a bun and no makeup on, she laughs and looks at me like I'm crazy. I'll remind her that most wives don't like for their men to play video games, and that I'm lucky to have one who actually joins in the fun. I mean, come on, guys. What better time to tell your wife that you love her than when you've just splattered the walls with some demon boss guts? Now, please don't get me wrong here. I would never try to tell you how you should interact with your spouse. You do what's right for you. Just don't go hating on me and my heartless wench.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
Wow, call me shocked. Apparently, the mean old hag is still paying attention. The Evil Overlord leaves her comment on the podcast called Trucking in the Northeast. She says, "White Angel? I am so going to throw up. Please. White Angel? What a load of crap." Move along here, folks. Nothing to see. Clearly this woman has lost her marbles. And Love 18 Wheels writes in to back her up. Says, "Yeah, please. Hey, Todd said it first, and my husband thought that was a great description. And as for throwing up, yeah, I felt like that too. LOL. Women are the stronger species. I'll leave it at that." Well, Love 18 Wheels, I'm sorry to inform you, but the Evil Overlord is unavailable for comment at this time. It seems that someone has bound and gagged her. What? Don't look at me. BLCZZ999 writes back in and says, "Todd, clearly that woman has something to say. I'd watch my back if I was you. She sleeps right behind you while you're driving. And what goes on behind your back, you'll never know. And don't forget, a woman brought you into the world. There's no telling what the Evil Overlord may do behind your back. Go, Evil Overlord. You rock." Well, BLCZZ999, That's duly noted. She is sleeping behind me. Even worse, it's her wake-up mood that earned her that nickname. I'll be sure to be extra careful. Heidi says, "Ha! Love hearing from the Evil Overlord. You go, girl. Let's hear more behind-the-scenes real life on the road with the White Angel." See, you old hag? Heidi knows I'm a White Angel. And lastly, Little Trucker. Hey, I know her from Twitter, but I think this is the first comment she's left. Welcome, Little Trucker. She says, "I love it when you West Coast truckers come into my neighborhood and start complaining." Just kidding. I was happy to see that you didn't blame the area itself for the less than friendly truck terrain. As for the a-holes, I think they're just a little anxious because it's so crowded on the East Coast. Not enough room for them to take time and smell the roses, hence the uptight attitudes. I have some terrific customers in the Northeast, and that area is my bread and butter. But then, being a small-town Southern girl, it doesn't take much to please me. Nice blog. Well, thanks for dropping by, Little Trucker. Glad you like the blog. I think you're probably right about the correlation between the East Coast attitude and the cramped quarters. Even in the other parts of the country, the closer you get to large populations of people, the more likely it is to run into more a-holes. You know, I'm thinking I should just move to Montana. And lastly, Beth Beckwith says, I think she's new also. Man, got a lot of women on here. What's up with that? I guess dudes just don't do social websites as much. Actually, I did hear that was a stat that women do it more often. Oh well, I don't care, as long as I'm getting comments. And she says, I feel bad for you guys when you get bad directions. A few years ago, we were riding the Dragon Tail. You know, 300 corners and 11 miles. That one. We got to the bottom to find numerous cop cars, and traffic was stopped. Some poor guy in a Pepsi semi had tried, unsuccessfully, to go through the first corner of the tail. He didn't make it far. My guess? Bad directions. Poor guy. Well, I bet you're right about that. Bad directions happen all the time. And thanks for the story and the understanding. The last thing a lost driver needs is extra stress, yet more often than not, that's exactly what we get from non-truckers. So what about the rest of you? What's your stories about trucking in the Northeast? I know you got them. You can still send them in. It's not too late. I'll read them on any podcast. Any new thing that I get, even if it's from the way back at the beginning, my very first podcast, I'd be happy to read it on air. Or audio comments. Don't forget that. Still waiting on my first one. Who's going to be the person? Here's that contact info that you all probably have memorized by now. Well, needless to say, I got a decent amount of feedback on this one. Actually, after I wrote this post, I found out there's a lot of couples who follow the same pattern. That's good to hear. Just make sure it doesn't turn into nothing but insults. If you've got any feedback about relationships, either online or off, you can shoot me an email at truckerdump@gmail.com, or you can type "Feel the Love" into the search bar at abouttruckdriving.com and leave a comment there. You can also give me a shout on Twitter where I'm at Todd McCann. That's 2 D's, 2 C's, and 2 N's. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Thanks for hanging out. So until next time, drive safe and stay out of my way.